How many of you have changes you want to make in this new year? I'm not surprised. How many have really big dreams, transformational dreams for themselves this year and in the future? Yay. Yay. Have you ever thought of something that you really wanted to do? You saw someone else do it and you were like, wow. It really, got your attention, but you thought, I couldn't do that. Yeah, it's just not me. Yeah. A lot of us do that. I know I have. But we never really stop to deeply ask ourselves, why is that? Why can't we do it? Who's telling us that we can't? And is it really that we can't, or is it that we won't? And if we won't, why not? And I think it's because it doesn't fit the story that we have, our limited story about who we are. Narrative psychologists say that as human beings, it is impossible for us to be able to experience ourselves apart from the stories that we have of who we are, where we come from, and where we're going. That's how powerful these stories are. And yet they're not who we are. They're a culmination of, what society says we should be, our conditioning, what our parents have told us, what we've decided from our experiences, and we wrap it up in a nice, neat little box and say, this is who we are. And we may change, we need change, we need to grow, but it's really within that small confines of that little box. Have you ever felt stuck? Felt like you weren't happy with where you were going and you wanted to make a change, and so you got a new job, or you bought a new house, and for a little while it really felt good. It felt new, and then the novelty wore off. And you're living that old adage that wherever you go, there you are. It's because of these powerful stories. We cling to that identity, and we're so afraid to let it go. We're so afraid that if we do, we will lose ourselves and we won't know who we are. And I want to challenge that. I understand what those narrative psychologists are saying. It's because we experience, the entire experience of our lives is through that limited lens of our story. How we respond to it, what we think is possible, how we interpret it, it's all through that lens. And yet, I know people, we all do. We have seen the examples of people who have literally blown the lid off of their stories, and they are completely unrecognizable. Right? And I myself have done things that were completely unrecognizable to who I was. Have any of you ever done that? Yeah. I was in 9th grade the first time I did that. At that time, who I was a very shy, awkward kid with very low self-esteem. I was not outgoing. And I was sitting in my desk listening to the morning announcements when I heard them announce that the new musical that they were going to be performing that year was Peter Pan. And something inside me snapped. And I forgot who I was. All I knew was I wanted that part. I wanted the lead. I wanted to be Peter Pan. Forget the fact that normally you have to be in drama and in the choir to get a lead part like that. I didn't let it stop me. I just went straight to the teacher. I introduced myself. I told her I wanted that part. I told her exactly what I was going to do to get it. I happened to know that they were going to be broadcasting a live production of Peter Pan on TV, and I was going to record it, and I was going to memorize every single line, and I was going to come in prepared. I told her that. And that's what I did. I did. And I went into that audition. And the audition room was in the choir room, which was pretty big. And it was open. Everyone got to come and was going to watch everyone else audition. And it was packed. The old me, that would have been my worst nightmare. I was so focused. She asked, who would like to go first? And my hand raised up. I was like, who? Seriously, unrecognizable. You had to have known me then to know how unrecognizable that was. I got up there, I sang my song, and I said my lines by heart, and I got the part. No one else had a chance. Seriously. And then I played the part, and it was amazing. And then I distinctly remember the feeling afterwards when everyone started coming up to me and they started telling me how amazing I was, and they started having these big expectations of me, and they saw great things for me, and I remember how uncomfortable I felt. And even then I think I kind of understood that it didn't fit with the story that I had of who I was. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was at a crossroads. And I took the path most traveled. I went back to my old little self, back into my old little box. If anything, with walls a little bit more rigid, because I had stepped out of the box and it seemed too scary. And it was many years before I allowed myself to really put myself out there again. In fact, I was 35. And I was diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer. And it really hit me. I knew that was something that I had wanted to do, that I wasn't allowing myself to do. And I decided I was going to do it, no matter what. And I did. But that other shining light of a person was not there. I didn't know how to get that back, but the only difference now was that I was going to keep doing it no matter what. And I did. And I got stronger and more confident. It was really bad at first, let me tell you. But nothing was going to stop me. I just kept doing it. And I got stronger, and I started to get parts. And I teach a lot of people about that. I'm a courage coach, and I teach people that courage is a muscle. And if you just continue to take those courageous small steps, that you will get stronger. You will build that muscle. You will build your confidence. And over time, it will change how you see yourself and what you think is possible. It is a track to take, and it works. But it's slow in a lot of ways too. And you got to realize that entire time, every time you're stretching, that old self is just trying to yank you back. But I also grew in other ways from that is really interesting, that I didn't quite see the importance of it until just recently. I recognized it. But as I took on these other characters, the first role I played was a pigeon sister in The Odd Couple. I don't know if you know that role, but it's an all-male play. And then all of a sudden there's this burst of estrogen that comes in, these two sisters that are bubbly and giggly, pure femininity all over the place. And that role was really out of my comfort zone. It seemed so big for me. It was such a stretch. But through the rehearsal and by the time you performed it, I really embodied that. And I don't want to become a pigeon sister, but I was bigger. I was more expansive because of that. I was freer. to be everything that I could be, because I had that now as a part of me, and it changed me. And I had this amazing gift at a little dinner theater, Sleuth's Dinner Theater, where I play these wacky characters, over 20 of them, and they're big and they're broad and they're nothing like me. It's more performing like Saturday Night Live, but it's way out there. And all sorts of people who are not me, and things that I would never do. And each time I embody those, I get bigger. I could feel it. It made me more big, more outgoing, more not so small. And then a couple of years ago, I did something that I really never thought that I would ever do. Something that I had seen other people do, or I wished I could do that. I was in a really unfulfilling, unhealthy marriage, and I didn't know how to make it work. And I felt like I was never going to be able to be everything that I was supposed to be as long as I stayed in that. And yet, that was my story. It just did not fit with who I was. I did not think I would ever, ever leave. And 2 years ago, I did. And I naively thought that was it. That was the big thing. And from then I would forever be, but I still was bringing my old self with me. And it wasn't the big transformation that I wanted it to be. It wasn't. I was slowly doing the same thing I did the second time with the acting, taking those courageous steps, becoming bigger, getting stronger, seeing more potential, but it's still like wherever you go, there you are kind of feeling. And then I stumbled across this blog by Sam Ovens that it was about losing yourself. And he has created an amazing transformation for himself. Become a multi-millionaire, and again, one of those unrecognizable. And he teaches other people to do it, and I was reading about it, and he had 4 things that were really important. And I want to share them with you. The first one is that you are not your story. You are not who you think you are. You are so much more than that. You are your possibilities. And the second one is, trying to remember, that, I can't remember the second one. That you need to definitely, that tactics, the things that I was doing with the acting, taking things one at a time, or if you're building your business or you want to be a big entrepreneur, what I was doing now after leaving my husband, all the, learning how to be financially independent, that's 20% of transformational change. 80% of transformational change is forgetting who you are and making space for who you can become. And the fourth one is, if you really want to catapult that transformational change, do something that your current self would never do. And the more extreme that is, the more profound the change is going to be. And that's when the light bulb went on. I realized how I could access that shining light from back in Peter Pan. I didn't realize it, but that's what I had done. See, it's not just taking, little baby steps. It's like, and it doesn't even matter actually if it's in line with even where you think you want to go, like the characters that I was playing. I didn't necessarily want to be some sexy blonde bimbo nurse, but playing that ripped open my limits of who I could be, and suddenly I could access little parts of that and be so much more. That it's doing anything. Ask yourself, what is it that I would never do? And those are the things that we should do. So now as I move forward telling people as a courage coach, you want to take those courageous steps every day. What is it? What are your stories that you tell yourself? Oh, no, I could never get up and speak. That's exactly the thing you need to do, whether you want to be a professional speaker or not. You know, oh no, maybe it's even like, I'm not a dog person. Get yourself a dog. Do anything to throw yourself off track, to help you lose yourself, and then be prepared. That was the thing after Peter Pan. I didn't know, kind of just happened. I wasn't prepared for how strongly that old self is going to do everything it can to stay alive by keeping you staying who you are. You need to be prepared for that, right? But that's it. It's a whole new way of being, and it's action. It really is. It's taking action that is way outside the box, and that's how you lose yourself. It's not about finding out who you are. That's the wrong question to ask. It's, who am I becoming? And you can become anything once you rip open that box, and you can do that in any number of ways. Anais Nin said that life expands and contracts in proportion to your courage. So how big, how expansive do you want to be? The choice is yours.